Give him a big hand.
Nice, nice. Yes, so this would be my segment then. Let's go back to the agenda just quickly. What did it say? Intro, quick Azure tips. Okay. So let's see here. Just need to find my bearings. Oh. So I don't know if, yeah, it's good that you're not seeing what I'm doing here. So let's do like this then. Now I'm gonna expose myself here. So you know the saying, do as I say, not as I do. Okay, so don't do as I do. But you can see here, I have multiple of tabs. That's only for one of my browsers. So, and if I open this browser, you know, it's a lot of tabs. So don't do that. But the trick here is that I'm lost in my browsers, and currently I'm trying to find the portal. So then I do Control-Shift-A, and then I type portal. Okay, that helps me a little bit, right? And this is the one I wanted to come to. So I had a browser open somewhere with only one tab. This is what I wanted to show you. This is how I work, right? Anyway, so a fun tip here is that if you go to the portal and you type, let's say, preview.portal.azure, you get actually passed into a portal with functionality that's in preview, naturally, preview portal. So maybe the wizard for deploying storage counts or virtual machines, etc., has some new features. So if you type preview.portal.azure, you get there, right? That's one tip. So all of you that's working with Azure, have you had any discussions about cost? That it's cheap and no problems, everyone is happy, everyone understands what they're paying for, right? No. So a tip here, and this tip, yeah, look at these scores and follow that thing. No. If we go into workbooks, there's published something called cost optimization preview workbook. Anyone knew about this one? Perfect. Yeah, you don't count. So if we look at this one, you can see here, it's divided in rate optimization and usage optimization. And when we talk about cloud cost, that's basically the two defining metrics. Rate optimization is stuff like, well, if you have a good contract with Microsoft, or if you do reservations for a bulk of SKUs, etc. The other one is usage. Usage means if I leave my VMs on even if I'm not using it, if I have a bunch of disks, managed disks lying around that's not connected to anything, that occur cost, that's usage. So this one is pure non-technical influx, right? You can change that without changing the architecture. The other one actually requires some handiwork on it. So if we look at this one, we can look at rate optimization, for example. Here it tells me I can do all of these savings. Now I'm working in a wrong context. That's why it doesn't show. Yeah. So here it tells me if I do commitment-based savings, this is what I can do, probably what I can save and how much and so on. It tells me where it is. It looks back here, no savings recommendations found. It's because it's internal, you know, everything is optimized, right? And you can also use the hybrid benefits, and everyone here knows what hybrid benefit is. No. If you own the licenses on premises, you can transfer that to cloud, so you don't have to pay for it. So then you can run the SKU without paying for the license. You can quickly see, okay, where do we have possibility to save a lot of money? But if we go into the usage optimization, let's look at this one, for example, the top 10 services. It tells me the top 10 web apps. Is it only web apps? I think so, yeah. It gives me a quick view of how it looks like. Now, for you to be able to make a business case, because that's what's going to drive any decision here, you have to understand a little bit about the setup here. But these purple boxes here are like quick tips of how you can leverage this fast. All right? But I wanted to show you something specifically. Let's say in storage. Storage accounts, if we go down here. No. There, manage disks. So this one here, this is a pretty good one. Unattached managed disks. That's basically disks that just lies around occurring cost for you. So if you look at this list, you found a bunch of good savings, right? Let's take sort it by the disk size, or the other way around. So you can see all of these premium ones. So looking at this, there's probably a couple of $1,000 a month you can save by just removing them. So let's go ahead and do that. No, not really. There's probably a reason why they are unattached and why you have so many of them. But this one, imagine in a bigger company, you have a FinOps team. They're trying to come up with savings recommendations. If they look at this list here, they figure, okay, we have a lot of potential savings we can realize. But then it becomes a technical question, okay? Who owns this disk? Is it okay for us to delete it? Should we delete it, or should we push out the responsibility to another team? So for you to actually make something about it, you need to know how much does this cost. Then you're in a different situation. You only know that you have a bunch of disks, right? Now you have to connect this to your pricing list. So that is the next step, right? how do I connect it to the pricing list? Well, we're not going to go through that today, but I'm just giving you the tips how to go further, right? And here you have disks attached to powered off virtual machines. So there's probably a reason why they're powered off, and so on. Old managed disk snapshot, also occurring costs. So you can see, in an environment at a bigger organization, this is really common. But if you have a FinOps team that's trying to create a good, healthy state, a cost-optimized state, they would need to look at this and come up with some savings, right? So then you ask yourself, that's a really good workbook, but how do I understand it? Of course, this is documented somewhere. So it is detailed. There's documentation of it, and what each of these rows mean. So let's say you spend half a day trying to understand this workbook, piecing together a little bit of cost, and then you go to your manager and say, I think we can save a lot of dollars. And then they will be happy and give you a raise, probably. So what's more in the advisor workbooks? Let's look at it. So we have a reliability one, and that's kind of, okay, we have services that needs to be up and running really with a high SLA. Are we running it reliable? What else do we need to add? Then you can use that one. But this one, the service retirement one, it's a really good one because if you go into something called Azure Health, you can set up these alerts that if we do a maintenance, we send out an alert. If there's a problem on a specific service in a specific region and you have services running there, you get notified, etc. If there's a retirement of a service, that's usually communicated like 6-9 months ahead. If you get that notice today, you're gonna forget about it, right? Here, you can see how it looks like, and you can and it's directed to what services you have running, right? So I can look at all my subscriptions, and then I know what services I need to look into. Anyone knew about this one? Service retirement? Anyone care about retiring services? I think the developers don't care, but someone needs to figure it out, right? Yeah. So that's kind of the things that I wanted to show you, those two workbooks. And similar to the cost optimization workbook, you have the documentation about the reliability workbook here also. And you can find all the info in the Discord that we have. You find it on the meetup. Yes? Yes. That one just shows you what you're paying. The cost optimization workbook shows you what savings you can realize, potentials you have. So I've done a couple of these cost optimization workshops with customers, and depending on the audience, like the same message, the same workshop, one customer was extremely happy, the other one was yelling at me. And why they yelled at me is what I showed them how much they can save, but I didn't tell them how to realize the savings. And then we went through it, and it just created a lot of work for them, because they have to go out and ask, the developers, why are you using so much of this? And if they couldn't, it's a long discussion, multiple weeks, months of work. Yeah. So that was just a quick things I wanted to show. And the man of the hour is here, so I'm going to hand it over to him. The Madonna headset is here.
Thank you.
While he sets up, anyone coming to the Saturday session, 22nd? Yeah, perfect.
What's on Saturday?
Oh, you missed. It's our next event, 22nd of March, Saturday. We have a AI event. We have 3 speakers. Also with a lot of noise.
All right.
You're done?
I'm done.
Welcome, Richard.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Catching my breath, essentially, literally, coming here. Gee, they're remodeling the place outdoors, so, I mean, who knew? Thanks for having me, first of all. My name is Richard Hagerwald. I'm actually an old colleague of Michael's, if he didn't tell you that. See a few familiar faces here as well, and it's great being here. I work on my day job as the lead architect of ATIA Sweden. But it's not within our regular infrastructure team, as you might have thought, but it's rather within our digital workplace area. What we do is we try to deliver the best-in-class digital workplaces to customers across the Nordics. There's some 9,000 of us, so I hope we're doing a pretty decent job. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is Microsoft Security Copilot. Or was that Copilot for security? Or was it Security Copilot? Yeah, that's exactly the naming journey that they have went through, which has been extremely confusing for not just me, who's trying to marketing the stuff, but also for everyone else. The URL to the standalone portal has remained the same, which is a bliss. That way, we wouldn't have to get started. So you might be thinking, what's he doing on the laptop? Well, I'm going to get to that because I'm just spinning up the wheels that I need to have for now. Security Copilot is not for the weak wallets. Just saying. It's a great feature, but having experienced it firsthand, you forget it over a weekend and you pay. Just saying. So I'm going to be walking you through a little bit around what are really the use cases of Security Copilot. When I say really, it's easy to think that, well, it's for security, right? It's the Security Copilot. Wrong. Well, not entirely wrong, but it just fulfills a bit of the picture. So let's see if we got the technology gods, the demo gods I've ordered to obey. Everything else is going to be treated as trying to make a coup. Let's see if we get image going. It's always a miracle, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what we in digital workplace and regular IT support usually call an RBI solution. Resolution by intimidation. The tech doesn't dare do anything else but work. So got a bad connection, got a bad resolution, no idea.
No.
I can see camera 2, I can see my screen there, but it doesn't present up here. My bad.
Yeah.
No, but I can see what I'm presenting over there. It just doesn't show on the big screen. Yeah, I have to describe to you what I'm showing you. No, let's see if we can do it again. Try turning it on, off and on again. I don't know, maybe you went into some hibernation, right? Should see it. Yeah, ain't gonna go middling about it. Worst case that can happen, if you get it kicking, let me know. I heard the clicking. Well, there's some image, right? Unplugging, plugging again. Way, no signal. There we go. If anyone else know him by any other name, his name is henceforth Support God. Right. So, Security Copilot, and why that is the help of all of the IT department. Not just security, not just Azure, but all of the IT department. First of all, a few words about me. I'm Richard Hagerwald. I've been in the IT business for more than half of my life. Let's not talk about how many years. I am a lecturer, I'm a teacher, I'm the lead architect, and you can read yourself. That's a teaser for what's coming. So, I work very intense to deliver the best possible digital user experience to our end users, but also to encourage our customers to work for a strategically better digital user experience or digital employee experience. For those of you following me on LinkedIn, you know I've been buzzing about DEX lately, digital employee experience. I'm based out of Lund, Sweden, where I literally just put food on the table for my toddlers and say, bye-bye, nighty-nighty, daddy coming later. I run on solar power. So yes, I'm one of those solar panel nerds as well. So Security Copilot is not a product. It's a platform. It's a platform for the entire IT department to deliver generative AI capabilities across the different portfolios that we normally work in. It's about having both those integrated environments that you light up a little bit of a Copilot button next to some settings, next to some reasoning areas, next to some summarizations, but it's also about a standalone experience. And the standalone is essentially what you've probably seen on YouTube. You've seen it on screenshots when you Google, Bing, or Yahoo. You search for Security Copilot, you're going to find this screenshot of that black chat box. Maybe a YouTube video showing a long prompt that lists all those kinds of details. That is the standalone. That's expensive. But nonetheless, it's extremely powerful. So I'm going to go over some touchdowns in the real world. What if we could? And then do some touchdowns into different environments. I'm going to talk about plugins and how we work with Security Copilot as a platform, connecting different data sources in there, having the AI reasoning over it, and then spitting out something in natural language. Because that is not just something that is for Microsoft to do, or the big tech dragons to do. you can build a plugin, especially if you've got Copilot for GitHub, right? We're going to talk about pricing and the importance of Azure budgets, of course tied to some actions. And then last but not least, customers can be secured and comfortable about spinning up one of those capacities, as they're called. So first of all, this is the platform for all of IT. So you're in IT, all right? So Intune. Okay, no? Purview? Server management? Anyone? No? Okay. Enter ID, conditional access. That's quite commonplace. No matter whether you're doing regular Microsoft 365 stuff or you're regulating who should be able to access the Azure portal from wherever, whenever, at what risk level ever, you probably dabbled with conditional access. Or then you got Defender for, well, basically anything, and then some KQL on top of that. This is where Security Copilot's got you covered. In all of those different scenarios, and that's just the embedded experiences, with more to come. The platform does cover it all, and that is the beauty of it. Microsoft builds immense amounts of features that just assumes that you have Security Copilot spun up. Or else, sorry, that's your loss. Because much of the features that they talk about is building essentially around that you have this AI spun up, you have your tenant provisioned and prepared for working with Security Copilot. If you don't, well, then you can't take the benefits of those new technology gains. So what is the Microsoft story on Security Copilot? Well, it looks something like this. To the left, we've got the Microsoft security solutions. Sentinel, Defender, the Microsoft Threat Intel, all up here on top, because that siphons down to essentially all the other products. You got Purview, Priva, Entra, Intune, and then down here at the bottom, something that they've been pushing quite hard recently, the security experts or Defender experts. You guessed 3 times how they abbreviate Defender experts. I went like, no, that abbreviation is mine. Dex is something else. It's integrated into all of these different products. But it's equally much integrated into, well, whatever you choose. There are pre-built plugins that are already available in the standalone experience. You literally just flip a switch, enter your API key or whatever authentication mechanism you have, and you're good to go. To use CyberArk for reasoning over your data that sits on-prem in your PAM solution. For flipping the switch on Jamf, for managing all your iOS and macOS devices and the device inventory on that, and whatnot else. Those of you who dabbles with DNS health, there is the Whois features. But then there are generic features as well that are built into the Security Copilot just because they're there. The native so-called skills. The skills is essentially the list of features that one of those plugins can do. They can reason over data, they can do actions of data, they can summarize data, they can give you recommendations on data. But that all depends on how the plugin is written. So it's 2 experiences, but there's one base platform that's underneath. The standalone looks, well, free prompting. And then you've got curated prompts based on your role. And this is new. I met with Microsoft in Redmond in January, where they literally told me, well, free prompting like ChatGPT sounded like a niche and nice feature, But then there's the unpredictability that if you type a prompt in a different way than I would type the same kind of intention, we would get different results. With the same data set, removing all kind of predictability, and all of a sudden I've paid quite dearly for those capacity units. And we're coming to the pricing later. So what did they do? They made curated prompts. They made suggested prompts, suggested prompt books, and we're coming to that, what that is, tailored by different roles. Suggested starting points, essentially. If you're in this role, you'd probably want to ask this to Security Copilot. We can enable, we can disable a plugin, and of course it's only the enabled plugins that's going to be active once we ask a question to the orchestrator from the prompt. Because that's essentially what the flow looks like. You enter a prompt, the prompt goes into the orchestrator selects among your active plugins, the plugin of choice is going to be used, passes that prompt of yours back to the LLM, processes it, generates a response, gets back, and sends you a natural language response. Well, heavily simplified, of course. So the number of plugins that you have available, that's what's going to be there for the orchestrator. Anyone thought the orchestrator is capacity hungry? Yeah. So the more open-ended prompts you utilize, the more capacity you're going to drain by the orchestrator trying to figure out what the heck you're trying to do. I think you see why they made pre-curated prompts, right? Irrespective of whether we use Security Copilot in the standalone environment or whether we use it in the embedded environment, everything is going to be stored in sessions. And the session itself will always be there in your entry. Once you sign in with your account into securitycopilot.microsoft.com, that's where you're going to find your history. That's where you're going to be able to go back. And guess what? Looking at historical results doesn't cost you any SCU capacity. Oh, I spilled the bean. Security Capacity Unit, SCU. Goes without saying in my back of my head. I've been working quite a bit with this. Prompt books then. What is prompt books? Anyone heard of it? No. So I send a prompt in this freestanding type window to Security Copilot, and I get a response. List me all the users in Entra that signed in with multi-factor authentication over the course of the last 7 days. Okay. So I have a response. But I would want to work further on with that, right? Show me which of those users are flagged for risky. Show me which of those users that has a device in Intune that is non-compliant. And so on and so forth. The beauty of prompt books is that I, as a senior analyst, can do my series of prompts and then save them. And I can share them with the rest of the organization, or I can save them for my own doing and my own efficiency later. Such that if I would go in, I know I have an incident on my hands. I just refer to the incident number in Defender, I extract the different users that were in there, I extract the devices that were in there, but all I did was literally run a prompt book and I enter the incident ID. The different prompts contained in that prompt book, they were already pre-curated or prepared. And this is the beauty of Security Copilot. Because all of a sudden, it's not just about me. I can use it, then I can save it and share it as a prompt book, and all of a sudden, my junior analysts, they can use the same logic. And they can just understand afterwards what it was that really happened in front of their bare eyes. Really important thing. It is only in the standalone environment that we can work with non-Microsoft data sources. Well, because that's the only place they live. That's the only place we can tie them in. A common misconception or misunderstanding is that once you tie data in, it's going to be pulled in, it's going to be transferred, and it's going to be stored, and it's going to be cached for some extent, which of course has been quite a blocker for some of our public sector customers in particularly Sweden, but looking at basically all of the Nordics. Why is this something we need to work with? Well, it isn't. Because the data is not stored. It's just being processed. It's being pulled from the data, from the site where it lives. It's being processed by the LLM and the underlying mechanisms, and you will get the result back. Everything that's stored, that's your response. The response is going to be stored as in your session history. But that's about it. So this is really something to remember. If you ever have a sad dialogue, or you think of self or thinking about working with Security Copilot, the data does not leave its original source. And why is this so important? In order to go in and do some real triaging in Sentinel, just as a suggestion. Or why not do Splunk? Oh, did I say the S word? Sorry, people. No. Essentially, why I'm saying it is because there is already a ready-made connector to Splunk. You can just connect to your Splunk workspace. You can reason over all your logs in your Splunk SIEM, and none of the data leaves the SIEM. Why is this so important? Coming back to that again. Well, because you pay for log ingestion, right? So if you use Sentinel, you want to keep the amount of data that you ingest into Sentinel to the minimum level where you still have decent logging. With Security Copilot, you need not bother, because you have the entire audit log of the Microsoft 365 audit trace, or you have the entire Entra sign-in log at your disposal, just a prompt away. You don't need to ingest it somewhere. The integrated environment then, well, this is not free prompting. About. They've opened up a bit for free prompting as well, but down the path of using the resources efficiently, they know which skills are available in Intra. They know which skills are available in Intune, so they, of course, are going to show you suggested prompts. They're going to show you contextual workflows to accelerate what they've seen that you normally do. It's available in Intune, Entra, Purview, Defender XDR, of course, but also in Defender for Cloud, where you have security recommendations in Defender for Cloud and you want to understand what is this really about. Bing, there's the Copilot button. Explain it to me, summarize this to me, give me some suggested actions as to how I can work with it. And this is what it's all about. Seamless assistance in line. Where you're at, what you're doing. And hopefully the demo guards are going to be with us so I can show you a bit of this later on. So there's two experiences but one base platform. This is the prompt to try. The pre-curated prompts, now we're looking at the prompts for all roles, but on top we've got the role filter and we've got the plugin filter. Let's say I only want to work with prompts suggested if I have the Entra plugin. Or maybe I log into Security Copilot knowing that I only have permissions, because we all know zero trust, right? Yeah, all the way. And I only have the permissions to go into Entra ID or going into Intune, so there's no point in me having the orchestrator trying to find its way into Purview or Splunk or Sentinel. My account doesn't have any permissions in there anyway. Why bother? And then there's the integrated environment or experience, where all of a sudden we have this flyout on the right-hand side. The experience is a bit different. Sometimes we see it as a button on top with a colorful Copilot icon. And in here, specifically, this is in the Purview portal, where we've got data theft by departing users, where we're using insider risk management and data loss prevention policies. And we use Security Copilot on top. Now, Microsoft has been working quite heavily with preventing data loss over the years. And all of a sudden we had the entrance of AI and shadow AI, not to talk about something scary about that. Now, with Purview, we can assess all the interactions with all the different things happening in the AI space. But who really goes through all of that logs? That's just so many entry points. Well, we've got an AI to do that. It's called, but it's there in the data stack. The AI knows about it, and it can help you reason over it. So what if we could, in Intune? So I have a problem. I know that I have two different distinct devices. Both of them are registered to my user, Jack Nilsson. Both of them has his policies. Everything seems to be exactly the same. It's just that on one of the computers, Wi-Fi doesn't work, whilst on the other it does. And so you unfold your sleeves and you realize, okay, this is going to be some heavy digging. I do the research manually, or I use the compare devices features that is now built into Intune because I've got Security Copilot. And Security Copilot is going to go over every single bits and piece of configuration that has been pushed down to this device, telling you this is what differs. Ah, okay, I didn't see that. And it came from some triple nested groups that this device or user were in. Thereby, it's suggesting if you change this little Wi-Fi setting, probably it's going to work. And so it did. What do we get from that? Well, iteratively, the ambition, of course, is to make sure that we get a better knowledge. Hopefully I haven't killed you yet. Now, I won't continue killing by death through pipe point. Instead, what I'm aiming to do, at least, is to head into Intune. This is the conglomerate, also known as the Hagerwald family. In Intune, we can see that we've got a few different devices. We can see that we have some get started with Microsoft Security Copilot. You see this is what I did before. I spun up some capacities. Now, are we done? You would believe we are, but we're not. It is not sufficient to spin up the capacities. What we need to do as well is we need to go in and actually say we want to use that capacity that we just provisioned. Or else, it's just going to sit there, literally cost us money. Oh, look, it's that capacity. So I say apply, I use this capacity, and all of a sudden all the capacities and features light up. Of course, this can be done programmatically using logic apps if you wish. That is even the recommended way of doing it to keep costs under control. As you see, we have the different prompts, the different prompt books. Now, in Intune, nothing looks out of the ordinary. We'll get started with Copilot. I can tell you, every tenant has this get started with Copilot. It's just that when you try to use Copilot, you don't have any subscription or capacities provisioned. It's just going to throw you an error message. If you ask me, I think dare to be a bit critical. Come on, Microsoft. At least guide us in. Let us know how to do this. Give me the full path. Now, sorry for resolution here, people, but if we go into the devices, we can see that there are some devices in this environment. There are some Windows, there are some servers, there are some things happening. Okay, let's go into this device, just because it happened to be compliant. And all of a sudden, you see we have those readily made, pre-concocted prompts, suggested actions that we can do. I can explore the device. I can compare this to another device. I can do analyzation of an error code. How many times have we not seen that generic error code and no idea what to do with it? Well, you can do this in Security Copilot. And yes, it has been trained on Microsoft Learn. Who would have guessed? So we're going to do the explore device feature. And as you see, we get pre-concocted suggestions. Show the policies assigned to this device. What type of policy do I want to show? Well, let's say we want to look for configuration profiles. Which different configuration profiles do we have assigned? It's processing it, it's preparing the response, and this is what we get. These are the users, these are the different policies tied to which different users that have signed into the device, and you see it's still working. So that's just the 45 policy reports. Gee, who's been creating all those policies? I have to have a chat with that admin. Anyway, so this summarization, I could of course have done that manually, just going through, looking at what policies are applied. I can see what is the output, but I'm not really happy there. I want to go on. So you see at the bottom, we have some more suggested prompts. Summarize the device in its totality, and do note that I have not yet left the device blade. So this is all happening in the right-hand layout. I get all the logons, I get the policies, I get the status, I get essentially everything I think I would need to do some reasoning. And this was just from the policy blade. Now, who in here has been playing about with Intune at any point in time? No, you don't do Intune, you do Azure stuff, sorry. So what I wanted to show you is, why is this so important? Well, because we use Intune nowadays to configure how the servers are going to behave once they're onboarded to Defender for Cloud. Well, at least you should be aware that those that do manage Intune actually can manage how your clients or servers behave when it comes to Defender for Cloud. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to explain a policy. So we're going to go into this policy specifically. This is a policy that dictates that for our Android Enterprise fully managed devices, we want updates to be expedited. What does this has to do with Copilot for Security? There you see, I got it. That's the old name. Back in the back of my brain. As you see, we have this little nice thingy called Copilot button. And guess 3 times what's going to happen when I click it. It's going to look at this setting, it's going to look into docs, it's going to go over what does this setting actually do, and explain that to me in natural language. So if I was ever insecure about what a specific policy setting actually does, I just click the button. I could have Copilot summarize the policy as you see on top, but I think this explanation over here, does quite a good job telling me that this is exactly what's going to happen. And while I'm building policies of my own, hopefully I know what I'm doing. If on the other hand I happen to land in an environment where someone else did the job, and there's that standard Windows 10 policy with 65 different subcomponents. Once again, we unfold our sleeves and we start digging, or we use Summarized by Copilot to really get the nitty-gritty goods out of what's in there. This might not seem as much, but they're constantly evolving, and this was just one example of what you can do in Intune. Similar experiences we find in Entra ID. They're of course related to lifecycle workflows, logins, sign-in logs, audit logs, or whatnot. Right. That was the demo of the Intune portal. I'm not going to do a demo of what it looks like in Defender XDR, but I'm going to walk you through it. Once we get an alert in Defender XDR, and hopefully we've tied together everything in our ecosystems into the Defender XDR, including Sentinel nowadays. So we have the automatic attack disruption. we can use Security Copilot, and it's actually on by default, to do the triaging. Once you open up an incident, it's going to tell you, this is the summary of the incident, these are the suggested actions that you should take based on what everyone else was doing in this kind of incident. It's going to allow you to just press the button, yes, do isolate the device, and then you're automated away. Of course that is going to be stored in your session history. So you can go back and have a look at what did all the different things do. We got a quick resolution and we got a recovery. Why is this so important? Anyone heard of NIST 2? Once in a while? Yeah. From a Swedish perspective, there are some legislation that requires for you to deliver an incident report in a summarized and overview form within 72 hours from when you've concluded that there was an incident. What if you could have some AI generate an incident report and write it in a nicely formatted PDF format, and then just spit it out as the end result of managing the incident? Well, wait, you could. But, okay, so we talked about Sentinel being part of Defender XDR. We know we can do some triaging, but I mean, we want to automate, right? We want the stuff to manage itself, by itself. So now, yes, we can build Security Copilot into Sentinel playbooks, saying that when an incident of this type has been detected, trigger or fire off this Security Copilot prompt or even prompt book to generate more intel, to find the data that sits in the other solutions, to go and query on the fly, no human interaction needed, and then by the end of the flow, send a nicely formatted incident report. As you might have guessed, this is SCU hungry. Very much so. So we have an ever-growing number of plugins. I think one of my favorite is Purview Data Security Posture Management for AI. I abbreviated it because it was kind of a mouthful. This is essentially Security Copilot analyzing the audit data that comes in from your onboarded endpoints as to what generative AI solutions have your end users been using. I know, everyone here is like, woohoo, data security, finally! Won't he get started on labeling too? No, I won't. But this is the modern type of data leakage, shadow AI, that is literally or almost impossibly to stop. But what you can do with Purview is that you can monitor what is being used. You can monitor and actually prevent, to some extent, data being leaked to AI models that aren't really up to the task, that aren't properly not built in a way that they would be avoiding to get prompt contamination, prompt injections, grounding and contaminations, and so forth. I believe Defender for Cloud is a fantastic feature. Even if you would just slim it down to use it for securing your on-premises workloads. Because yes, I know, there are actually people that do work on-prem. Using the cloud to secure on-prem, and using Security Copilot to do it faster. Purview Audit Logs Connections essentially gives you insights into every single action in your entire Microsoft 365 tenant at your fingertips. Now, third-party connectivity, I mentioned YAML earlier. If we got management there, we may have some privileged access management solution through CyberArk. Why not use URL scan? You know that there is some URL, you're not secure or sure whether that is a good URL. You could set up a sandbox and go through all the testing yourself, or you just send a URL to URL scan and let them do the heavy lifting for you. And then I mentioned the Whois freaks as well. Darktrace is a well-established firm within cybersecurity. they too have a plugin. And there's more. Now, building a plugin might seem as something really complicated. I have not done it yet, but it's not that much of a biggie. We can have data sitting on-prem as long as we have a connection point and an API that we can connect to it. We can use that. We can connect and let Security Copilot reason over a local SQL database just by exposing it to our Security Copilot instance. Now, I've been talking quite heavily about how expensive this stuff is. Why do we need to have a budget? Why is it so? Well, because it's $4 per SCU per hour. That's some 30,000 Swedish krona a month if you just leave it running. And on top of that, you won't get very far with one SCU. You can use the integrated environments in Intune. If you do want to try it out, you can spin up one SCU. You can have it running in Intune, maybe do some playing about in Entra, and then you're sort of done. So how should we be looking at those SCUs? There's some mysterious new way of paying for how we utilize our resources. I've been trying to come up with some analogies, but the best thing I can come up with is that every hour you get a jug of water. And if there's only you and you're not overly thirsty, a jug of water, a liter or a liter and a half, probably will suffice. If you come straight from the China buffet, or maybe you had something very salty, you probably is going to drink some more. If there's two of you using it simultaneously, then the two of you sharing that jug of water, 3, 4, 5, all of a sudden one jug of water won't get you that far, because this is the other side of the portion. This is not per user. This is per tenant. Essentially meaning that if the SOC is using some capacity and they're counting on having their capacity, it's just as some very trigger-happy endpoint management dude over here all of a sudden uses all of the capacity such that when an incident happens, there was no capacity left. Ouch. Currently, that is the setup. Now, one SEU is fine for testing. Production does require some more. When we look into using free prompting in the standalone environment, working with 3, 4 SEUs, those of you who were really vigilant saw that I had spun up 3 SEUs. So for this little show, I'm paying $12. And no, I ain't going to rush away forgetting about shutting that one down. Ain't going to have that much fun for tonight. Because it's going to cost you. There is a concept saying that's called bursting and sliding. Microsoft does not talk very much about it, but essentially what it's about is that if you have an SCU running 24/7, i.e. you do not deprovision it entirely, whereby you would get the experience that you saw on screen. Once I go into the Security Copilot portal, I will get the splash saying which capacity you want to use. You don't have any capacity, which one will you want to utilize? And as soon as I've dictated that, I'll be let into my history, to my usage, to everything. Logic apps for doing time-controlled SCU provisioning is a godsend. There are quite some examples of how we can do that, including on the GitHub repo for Security Copilot. It's not something advanced. But normally the structure that you build it on is that when from 6 a.m. to, say, 9 a.m., you're going to have more capacity because that's when you're going to double with what came in through the night. Between 9 a.m. and 12, maybe you're going to suffice with 1. And then between 1 and 2, that's what came in over lunch. To make sure you have the optimized volume, and that's all what a Logic app can manage. You want to shut it off overnight? Absolutely, that's doable. If you're a larger organization, having it spun up 24/7 actually is a really good idea. because it provides you the bursting and sliding. And what was that? Again, well, essentially what it's about is that if you have that one SEU running, once you use it, you will have some stretch capacity, up to 5 SEUs of power per SEU that you have provisioned. So in my case, if I would have had those 3 SEUs running 24/7, sorry, that's not my pay grade, I would be able to go and burst up to 15 SEUs momentarily. But then I would get an error message. The prompt books that you saw earlier, you might think that, well, they're all well designed to be non-SEU hungry, to be optimized and not to drain as much capacity. Well, think again. I spun up 3 SEUs and I run the identity analysis prompt book. It got me a little bit more than halfway. Then my jug of water was out. It's a really nice summary. And it really brings me. Won't find anything. Challenge accepted. So essentially, Security Copilot is here to stay. It's not something that Microsoft just tried out a bit and now they're letting it go. I actually feel very, very, very happy that the guy who is more or less in charge of it all is located in Lyngby, Denmark. So that's a guy is actually ex-Azure. That's nothing to do with it in this case. But we have a quite good dialogue with him. It's really interesting to see what's on the front lines and to see what are the next iteration. What is it that they are working on? I know more than I can tell you, of course. But as long as you set up a budget, go try it. It's good for you. That's about it, folks. Thank you for having me.